Welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, we're doing we're looking at, say, what do you want to call it, part 3 of the letter, cash needed to move to the Philippines, all about relocating to the Philippines. And I thought, how many reasons do you need to actually start anew? So looking at it, and I thought probably are a million others, but I thought 4 reasons. So 4 reasons. The first reason, let's say, is money. Let's say that you have now reached a stage where you are living mostly on your pension and do not fancy the idea of going out and doing another job until you're, say, 75 or 85 or any 5. So can you do it? That's the big question. We've really answered this and put it to bed, really. But what will it take for you to make that adjustment on money? For one thing, you need to be able to think in a different currency, and that may sound really easy, but it's not actually that easy. For instance, when you come over here, labor for doing things is completely different. When, for instance, if you just, let's say that you hired somebody, a carpenter, to work on some cabinet work in your kitchen, let's say that. When the man comes, he'll be paid a different rate if he brings his own food to if you feed him. And that's a normal cultural thing. Now, in the snotty UK, you wouldn't dream of inviting the man who is there working on your property to share the lunch table with you. Yeah, I don't think you would dream of doing it. But in the Philippines, it's quite different. A worker or workers, let's say that you have a group of 2 or 3, and they're working in your house. If you are part of a multicultural mixed marriage and you're married to a Filipino, that Filipino is going to feed those guys in the place that you normally eat, and they will be treated as if they are guests, which actually in Philippine culture they are. So if you actually feed the people, then you pay them slightly less. It's more in terms, when we do it, we think of it more in terms of we pay them more when they bring their own food. And sometimes it's just not possible if they're not working at our place and they're involved. If it's a Superman team and they're involved somewhere else, we don't have access to giving them food at the table. They take their own, and so the money will be reflected in that. So that's one kind of difference on money. Things are very different here depending on where you live. We live on Bohol, which is one of the smaller, islands. It's one of the larger islands. It's very close to Cebu, and it relies a lot on Cebu for many of its services and often some of its materials. Things you might not be able to get things for the kitchen in Bohol, maybe in Tagbilaran, yes, but it might actually be easier for you to take a ferry and go over to Cebu. You go over to Cebu City and you'll be able to get things there that you couldn't even get in Tagbilaran. So if you look at it, that some of the things that are expensive are not part of any rhyme or reason. When our little red truck broke down in the hills, we had to get a mechanic to come out, and that meant that we actually went down to Talabon and we picked up the guys. We picked up a mechanic and 2 helpers, and they came out and they effected a repair. Well, they got the old part off. We thought that we knew exactly what the new part was, and so we went ahead and bought it, and it turned out that it had been packaged wrong. So our little red is 4-wheel drive, and the suspension leg that we had, it was made for a 2x4. So I had to take it back and exchange it again. Now, when we tried to make the first one fit, we had to drill a hole in it, and I just didn't have, I think it was a 1/2 inch or close to it, 1/2 inch drill bit, steel drill bit. So I had to go down and get a bit. Now, the arm itself, the part, right, which was a pressed steel part, if you can see, about so long, with bushes on either end, it was 350 pesos. Now, never mind about how many dollars that is, just look at it and keep a head on the numbers themselves. 350. So then I came back and needed to go out again because I didn't have the drill bit. So I went down to the nearest store and I bought a steel drill bit. The drill bit was 360 pesos. You see the craziness in that? The actual part, which was made for a moving part for a vehicle, was only 350, but the drill, just for drilling a hole, I mean, it's a drill that looks about this big, and that was 360. Go figure. So that's one reason. You've got to get used to that. Now, you've got to get used to whether your money will go, and I think we already dealt with that. So, a relationship. You're going to look for a relationship. Now, usually that means a new start in life. And I remember an image that still stays with me when I was in Tagbilaran. I was looking across, I was sitting, having a cup of coffee somewhere, probably Dunkin' Donuts, and over in a restaurant, it's all kind of open plan at the ICM mall at that time. And I'm looking over and I see a man who is obviously into his 60s, and he has a pushchair, a brand new one, still in its wrapper. I thought that looked like a new start in life. Now, without going into all of the to and froing and the backbiting and the vicious criticisms of us old geezers who have elected to take a chance and come out and try to have a new life, a new start in life. Apart from all of the squabbling that goes on about that, about the rights and wrongs, you can come to a foreign country, not just the Philippines, and you can have a new start. Now, I had a letter very recently from a lady whose father is, let me see, I think actually he was in his 80s. So he's in his 80s and he's lost his partner. His partner, the lady who wrote, her mother, had passed some time ago. Now, her father was still very active, got himself about. He was still very sharp, and he was feeling lonely. So he went online and he found a lady who was interested in talking to him, who was 63 years old. And this blossomed into some kind of relationship, to the point where the man decided that he was going to take a chance and he was going to try for a new start, and he was going to come to the Philippines and live here until the visa was approved for the lady. Now, during that time that they're waiting for this plan to bear fruit, it actually became known to the lady that he no longer owned his own house. Now, apparently he had enough that he could bequeath that early to his offspring. Now, whether it was 1 or 2 or 3 children, I don't know. Let's say it was 2 or 3. So he's given it all away. thinking of himself that he is comfortable enough to be able to live out his life. Not quite sure how anybody decides how long that's going to be, but he gave up and he gave it away. And when the lady found that out, she said, well, what's left for me? Now, she was assuming that he would die first, which is not always a safe assumption, believe me. My brother, as I mentioned before, my brother died when he was in his 50s, and I'm a lot older than 50. So how do you know? And of course you don't. So you could be coming out for a new relationship, and that will have challenges. It will have great change that's needed, because living with a Filipina is a lot different actually to living with a Western woman. And I'm not actually saying that either one is better than the other. It's what you think. That's the thing. Do you come out here and look? Somebody actually wrote to me and said that they thought that I was living with a very young woman. Well, yes, she is young, but she's 29, but she's extremely mature, as most people seem to think, and so I don't get the age thing myself. Of course, for us old people, unless we actually make the mistake of looking in the mirror too often, we don't actually know that we're that old. Of course, everything hurts, and we have to be careful how we treat our bodies. But actually, the age thing doesn't continually come into it. So you can come out here and you can live with someone who's a lot younger than yourself as an expat, and it will work if you want it to. Now, as I say, it depends how you look at it, you see. If you look at it and think, well, she doesn't know past, present and future, and she keeps making a mistake, and I'm trying hard to follow. Is she talking about him or her? And which him is she talking about? Because she keeps calling him her. And she and he are all mixed up. And if I ask her, we're not going to do that, are we? And she says yes, she actually means no. Sometimes it can be quite confusing. And unless you start to find yourself saying, now, was that yes, we are going to do it, or no, we're not? And I find that that's a phrase that I use very often, sometimes a little facetiously. So that's number 2, relationships. Come out, take a chance. If you're there and you're getting on and you've got a pension, and you could come out and find someone that means that you will not spend your last years alone, then I see no reason to not do it. But that's me. And as I said, I'm older than 50, okay. What's the next? Adventure. This is almost the same. Adventure, something new. Do you want to come out and see the same thing, where you ride down the high street in Islington in London, and all the shops are packed together, and there's double-decker buses and taxis and all that kind of thing? Is that not suiting you? And if it's not suiting you, do you think it would be better if you came here, and if you lived in the province, very little traffic, people look differently, they look different, they sound different, it's another language. Are you going to be able to learn it? There are jeepneys, not buses. There are no double-decker buses. There's no pubs as such. It's different. It's another adventure, and you might just be fed up of the same old, same old. And if you are, then what the heck? come or go, depending where you're going to go. You might decide, I mean, there's some terrific places that you can go to. It's not just the Philippines. You can go, well, let me see, a long time ago when Beth and I first met and we were still undecided about how we wanted our adventure to unfold, we said, as I've mentioned many times, we thought maybe, let me see, Panama. Panama was high on the list, and Panama is good. It's good to retirees. You get a good discount in most places. People treat you respectfully. You go to the front of the line. Actually, you do here in the Philippines. If I go to the bank, I go to the front of the line. Actually, I feel so embarrassed by that now that I've started going to a desk and sitting at the desk until someone wondered what the hell I'm doing there, and they come over and say, yes sir, what can we do? And then I say, I want to make a deposit or whatever it is that I need to do. And then the last time I was in, I confided with the girl. I said, look, I'm a senior. She hadn't noticed, by the way. I'm a senior, but I'm embarrassed of just going to the front of a line. I'm British, after all. I can't just go to the front of the queue. She said, it's all right, sir. The next time you come in, come and sit at this desk, and I will come and see what you need. And that's what she did. So, there are different ways to approach things. Everything's different. You've got to learn a language, but you can find someone to teach you the language. And if it is that you do combine this with number 2, then you, sorry, that's a rather unfortunate phrase for anybody in the West, combine it with number 2. With question 2 or reason 2, you can do it, and you can probably find a whole family that will welcome you. That's what happened for me. I found a family, but that's another video. Right, what's the next thing? That's the adventure, something new. And I think this is very important, to learn from a new culture, another culture. Now, one of the things that sticks out to everybody that comes to the Philippines in particular is that the people are so friendly. There are more smiles per mile, as I like to put it, in the Philippines than anywhere else. When Beth and I took a trip a little while ago, about a year ago, we took a trip and we went to Hong Kong. Now, Hong Kong is mostly Chinese, but of course there are thousands of Filipinos there. And it made me make the statement that if you are coming from the West and you intend to go to Hong Kong and to the Philippines, then I urge you to go to Hong Kong first. Because if you go to the Philippines first and then go to Hong Kong, by comparison, okay, if you've gone and you found out just how friendly people can be in the Philippines, and then you go to Hong Kong are a little more businesslike or a little colder, I found. And Beth thought so too. So we both said, well, if you're going to combine these two places, you better go to Hong Kong first. Then you won't be making comparisons. Well, when you get to the Philippines, you'll be saying, oh my God, why didn't we come here first? Well, that's only my opinion. So, to learn from a new culture, it seems to me that the secret that everybody misses as being something they can learn is being happy with what they've got. And boy, if the Filipino could bottle that skill and sell it, it would be the richest country in the world, because even when they have little, they can smile. Even when they have nothing, they can still find something in life that's worth living for. And that's a secret that we perhaps are in pursuit of and we don't actually realize. So sometimes when you come, might be the 5th reason fifth reason might be that this is your destiny or your fate. Beth asked me the meaning of fate, or the use of fate, as opposed to, say, destiny, and I thought that fate was normally more to do with talking about how things are not going that well. Yes, well, he got knocked down by a double-decker bus. I think it was his fate not to get older than 25. See, it may be your destiny to come here and find, maybe you will find a mission like I did and become very fulfilled, and because of that, very happy. I wish you luck on finding that and in looking at the ways in which you're going to have to change. And you are going to have to change. Otherwise you will be in your ivory tower, in a nice house, in a modern, everything pretty well as it is where you left. Oh, yeah, I wonder what's wrong with that picture. You left a place and now you've made this place that you've run away to the same as the place you ran away from. Something not a little bit askew there. So thanks for looking in. This is, as I said, part 3, and it's the 4 reasons. Well, wasn't it 5? Thanks for looking. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. To anyone, you can share this video if you think that they would be interested in learning something about making the change, relocating to another country.